Welcome in, everyone, to this episode of What's Bruin. It is Sunday evening. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, the one, the only Dominic Tiano. Dom, before I ask you how you're doing, I want to make sure we remind everyone that this show is presented by our friends over at Ice Shaker. Check out iceshaker.com. Go and get your own kitchen-grade stainless steel shaker bottle. It doesn't come with that annoying metal ball inside when you shake it. And it keeps your ice cold, frozen really for up to over 30 hours. As you can see, they got Bruins ones. They're partnered with the NFL, NHL, MLB, NCAA, wrestling. Go check them out, iceshaker.com. As I mentioned, Dom, welcome in. How are you today? You looking forward to talking some bees?
I'm doing great. Always am, Chris. What's brewing with you?
You know, trying to figure out these Boston Bruins.
Good luck.
I know, right? As Kevin said, whoa, it's us again. Bear Force jumping in the chat already. Hopefully we can get some likes, some shares. You guys know where the buttons are. We appreciate it. And you guys know that it helps us and the algorithm. So appreciate it if you help us out with that. But Dom, have you managed to stay up for these late night games?
Always. I rarely sleep. You know what I'm like during hockey season. So, um, there's really three stories here. How terrible they looked for at least the third period um, in games against Seattle and Winnipeg, and how dominant they could look for almost an entirety of 60 minutes against Vancouver. And then you might add in Providence, who's also adapted their system to match the big club, won their sixth in a row today. So um, when we see the system and the system being adhered to and executed by the players, we now know they can play. The question is why do they stray from it? And that is the $1 million question.
Yeah, I will say that the Seattle game and the Vancouver game, both of them started off completely on the wrong foot. Early penalties caused them to chase the game early
You
on.
mean the Winnipeg game?
I'm sorry, the Winnipeg game. The Winnipeg game and the Seattle game caught them chasing early on. Um, Kevin already jumping in saying the Bruins are frauds. Um, I mean, last time I checked, Kevin, the saying is you are what your record says you are. And that's pretty much how they're playing, exactly where their record falls in at. I will say I don't think the score really indicates the entirety of those losses. Um, it just, when the game got away from them in Winnipeg, it just was who gives a shit. Everything started going in, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
To
Mike,
me, it seems like they do not know how to react when they get down. And that's the biggest issue.
yeah, and Mike asks the right question: is that because of the leadership of this team? Is that an indictment on Brad Marchand wearing the C
I
and
don't think so.
the alternates who wear the A?
I
So
don't think so.
it can't. I mean, I guess it could still be the coach, but they they got rid of the coach that we thought it was. Is it just Sacco's also not the right guy? He's not ready to be a head coach still.
Um, no, I think it falls on the players. Like I said, I think I'm of the belief, and there's going to be a lot of people that that will disagree with me, that when they play Sacco's system, they'll be fine. They may not win every game, and they may still only be a 500 hockey team, but they'll be in every game.
Yeah, they've let the system get away from them too much in the games in these ones. Mike says, "Yeah, I don't think it's Brad. He is trying to ask about that next level of leadership. McAvoy, Pasta, the Carlos, those guys who wear the letters. Um, I mean, I'm also when you look at this roster too, you're looking at a lot of guys who aren't they're not tested in terms of NHL. I don't want to say adversity, but like Justin Brazeau's 26. He's still breaking into the league as a 26-year-old. Pavel Zacha is finally coming into his game at the age of 27. Wotherspoon, journeyman until recently, finding a spot as a seventh defenseman with the Bruins, also 27. That leadership group of McAvoy, Pasta, Carlo, even Elias Lindholm, you know, they're not older than 30. They're 27, 28. Like, they're still I don't want to say they're by far the youngest team because they're not. It's just they're still coming into their own as people.
Yeah, I don't know how you can question leadership when you're not there behind closed doors to see what kind of leadership they're providing. Uh, that's my opinion.
I think we've also had a little bit into the insight when Brad Marchand comes out and says we as a team aren't practicing right, haven't been doing the things that we need to do. So he's putting blame on not just himself but everyone in the locker room. He's basically telling everybody that they need to hold themselves accountable for the results that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they do that and they go out and it sounds like they had an optional morning skate the night of the Vancouver game, on Saturday, yesterday. Some players took it, others didn't. And look what you got. You got back to what you needed to. Like you said, when they're playing Sacco's system, we see games like we saw on Saturday.
Yeah, and I'm not putting any blame on Thatcher Demko. It was only his second game back. Uh, he was good. He made some really, really good saves. I don't know that I would fault him on any of the goals. Um, Vancouver didn't seem to have a lot of energy. There is a flu bug going through their dressing room, so maybe that had something to do with the reason we didn't see Vancouver at their best either.
No, and I tweeted it out before the game that because it was Demko's second game back, you wanted to test him. They tested him early and often, as they should have. Like he had to learn how to play the game an entirely different way and adapt to the knee issue that he has. So, like you said, I'm not trying to blame him for it, but it helps when you get over 30 shots on the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, um, there were signs to be there were signs in the game to have some optimism, but we've seen all season long them fall back to the same old bad habits and routines. So, you know, I keep
No,
my optimism at I keep my optimism at a low level.
right. No, Kevin, I'm not saying let them decide if they want to practice or not, and that'll cause them to win. What I'm saying is Brad Marchand sent the message to the team, to each player individually, you need to be accountable to yourself and to your teammates. And then they provided an optional skate in the morning so that those who needed to be held accountable in a certain way were. They were able to hold themselves that way. They went to the skate if they needed to. Those who needed a rest, their bodies needed extra recovery, were able to do that. And it wasn't, oh, well, I have to skate. Why does he? Each person was able to, in this moment, look at two shellacking losses and say, what do I need to do so that I'm where I need to be for my teammates? They had that moment and then they produced on Saturday. They've got 2 days to look internally, travel, settle into Calgary, and we'll just have to see where it goes from there. I don't think Tuesday's morning skate will be optional.
It's always an optional skate before game.
As far as the normal routine.
Yeah.
I know, Kevin. I know you're joking. Someone's going to take the comment or your question seriously, so I want to make sure that it's out there. I know where your intelligence level is at, Kevin. It's engulfed in that burrito. So I Curious Browser just puts in the comments, and it was something I was going to transition over to here. The Bruins put in a waiver claim, and we now have Wahlstrom coming in off of waivers. Dom, what do you make of the claim? Welcome in, Court, real quick. Court Lalonde is in the comments here. I haven't had a chance to dive into, Court, if you've done a video recently on the Wahlstrom claim, but I will definitely be checking that out as I download our show and post-production go through that. So
he did today, and his comment was, I'm going to have to get on What's Bruin tonight and see what Dom has to say about him.
Hey, no, Court, you can jump on if he wants to. He knows this. He's always welcome with us.
That's not what he said, but
we'll pretend it is.
Court, I love Court because he doesn't hold any punches. Look, too many people are thinking of that goal from 15 years ago or whatever it was when he was 9 years old. It's not what the hype is about. The kid has shown that in his first year that he could play in the NHL. I don't have his stats in front of me, Chris. I think it was 12 goals and 20 some odd points in 44 games.
I'll see if I can.
Something like that. Excellent shot. Injuries have hampered him over the last couple of years. I think it even has affected his skating to a degree. He's very good defensively. It's just a matter of giving him the opportunity to try and find his game. And to do that, you're going to have to put him with the right players. And I know your automatic train of thought, Chris, is, well, who would you put him with?
I mean, I want to get him in first.
I don't know.
Yeah, I want to get him in, get him a practice, see who he skates with. I'd probably look to start him on that third or fourth line just to get him into the game.
He's not a fourth liner.
No, I'm just.
He doesn't play fourth line hockey the way Joe Sacco wants them to play. So that's an out. This is a point where Sacco has to mix and match to see if he can find something there.
I know he's a right shot, but can he play the left side?
No. So, he's a shooter. You want him with guys that can make passes. So, I don't know. I mean, Justin Brazeau's gotten a long look on the second line. A long look. He has 2 goals since November 3rd. That's 6 weeks. You need more than that out of a second liner.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like the thought process here is to try to bump Kostelic back down to the fourth line. Not because you're punishing him, but because Beecher, Kostelic, that combination early in the year did so well for you on that third line with Koepke. Was it Koepke? No.
Yeah,
it was Koepke. And so that fourth line, can play the style that Joe Sacco wants them to. And so if you can potentially get Brazeau on your third line and Wahlstrom on that second line with whether it be Lindholm or I would try him with Lindholm. I don't see a Marchand Lindholm Wahlstrom line as being the worst way to start his transition.
It's two guys that compete in pucks,
Right.
at least.
And Marchand's not afraid to take the shot himself if he has the lane. So, it bumps Brazeau down, like you said. He hasn't been scoring as much as you need him to be a second liner. It doesn't solve your Morgan Geekie on the top line problem, but that seems to be that seems like a move either from him or from Frederick out of the organization for one of the two of them. And we know Don Sweeney was talking to every GM for the Four Nations face-off roster. So we know he knows who's available and what kind of deals are out there. We're starting to see some other GMs pull triggers on deals. I think he's doing his job, doing due diligence to see. And I think some of it too is if you get Wahlstrom in and he works, you're going to want to see what else you already have. Do you have to trade for a player, or is it, hey, Wahlstrom worked, let's see if we can get Merkulov in here, elevate him somewhere into the lineup, third line, first line, whatever it is, and solve our problem internally by trading someone off for a draft pick. I'm curious to see what they do with Tyler Johnson. I don't think he's a Sacco kind of guy.
Probably waivers. Nothing's happening until they get back to Boston.
No, I agree. I think especially now, Lindholm and Zaka both took pucks off the body hard. They both played yesterday, but could that have been more out of necessity? Who knows? I mean, they played well, so I'm not that worried about it. But I'm not trying to waive anybody until you get back home. Curious asks, so he's playing with Coyle or Lindholm? Yeah. Do you get him on the power play as well? Get him settled in first. Your power play hasn't, taken off. So, you can always look at it. Would you put Wahlstrom on the power play?
I'd put him on at least the second unit to start.
Now, Court asks, what's going on with Kakko?
I don't know. I really don't know, which is funny because Pat, I stopped myself there, thank goodness. Maybe you can edit the name out when when this goes on Spotify.
I'll call him Tim.
So I knew the Bruins had put in a claim for Wahlstrom, and I was told that no team below them had. So they're at the time anyway when I was informed. So I kind of knew that there was a very, very good possibility that Wahlstrom was going to be in Boston. And it's funny because with that same person, I was talking about Capo Caco and what's going on. And something tells me I want to be politically correct here. Something tells me I don't want to see him in a Bruins uniform.
Okay. I didn't know that he was potential. I mean, I know the Rangers have thought about moving on from him, but I didn't know he was someone that could become a Bruin, bar it being from like waivers or something. I don't see him being someone that the Bruins would target unless they go after him in a player for player, Trent Frederick for Capo Caco kind of swap. I don't think they put a lot of interest in him, if that makes sense.
We'll see. We'll see. Rangers lost again today to LA 5-1. I don't know what's going on there, man. I don't, but
honestly, I think Chris Drury's starting to panic.
I think there's issues in that room.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're seeing panic from Chris Drury. The fact that he let out the the memo getting out with Kreider's name mentioned, Trouba's name mentioned, the fact that they then pulled the trigger on the Trouba deal with the timing that it did. I know that you were talking about the tagging dollar amount for Shesterkin, but they also didn't have to sign Shesterkin that day.
No.
And quite frankly, I know how good Shesterkin is, but I really think he panicked in making that deal. Because if you look at the market for what Igor Shesterkin was looking at for the offseason, the market was a very weak market. All the other big name goalies who could have hit the market all already signed. Ottinger signed, Swayman signs, they're all signed long term. Like your best unrestricted free agent goaltender coming into this next offseason, I want to say, is Logan Thompson. So I think he's starting to panic a little over there, feels the pressure. Real quick, I don't know why Kevin says, what was I crying about, Kevin? What was I crying about?
Matrix being late.
Oh, okay. I wasn't crying, Kevin. Come on. Michael says, I like how the Coyle Frederick Kostelic line has been playing. I wouldn't break them up just yet. I mean, Kostelic excels in your fourth line center role. If you're going to break them up, putting him back there, not something I would worry all that much about. Court is asking, how hot are the talks around Trent Frederick? Because Elliot Friedman has spoken about him 4 times now. I really think Trent Frederick is short for a Bruins uniform.
How many times has Elliot Friedman talked about Brad Marchand in one single week before Brad had to come out and basically say it's a lie?
Once. Elliot Friedman mentioned his name once, and then Brad Marchand was asked about it the same night, and he shut it down.
Elliot Friedman mentioned it 3 times that week.
Did he?
He mentioned it on 32 Thoughts, he mentioned it on the podcast, and he mentioned it on Hockey Night in Canada.
I don't see Elliot Friedman's coverage as much. I do get the podcast, so I might have missed a couple of them, but I don't know. Dealing Trent Frederick makes a lot more sense than Brad Marchand.
Court, to answer your question, if a GM didn't ask, let's say Don Sweeney was in Montreal scouting Montembeault as a possible Canadian goaltender.
Yeah, which he could have been.
Which he did at one point. And he talked to Hughes. Hughes wouldn't be doing his job if he didn't at least ask Sweeney what his intentions are. That's what GMs do.
Yeah. Now, does that qualify as soft tampering?
No. He's asking Sweeney. He's asking the opposing general manager. It's not like he's asking Frederick, which then would be tampering. It's funny because if you ask Bruins fans what they would do, I know I sent the poll for Chris to put up, but I notice he hasn't saved any of those things I sent him. About what they would sign Trent Frederick for, it's all over the map. All over the map.
I'm pulling up the...
A large percentage of Bruins fans think he's not worth what he's making now, but would re-sign him for less. There's another large number that think he's between $3 and $4 million a year. I think the Bruins have tried to re-sign him, and the fact that something isn't done yet may mean that there's not in agreement on what the player is worth.
Yeah. Here's the poll question. Let me just get this viewable here. And this is on your X page. So, like you said, the question was, what is the most you'd extend Trent Frederick for? You have a little over 500 votes. About 20% of people said they wouldn't re-sign him. Just shy of 11% of people said under 2.3 million. And then that's what, 60, almost 71% said somewhere between 2.3 million and 4 million, with about a 50-50 split of that portion. So people are all over the map on that one.
Yeah, which is always the case. Always the case.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, going back to Court's question, there's so many websites now, like Fansided or Yardbarker or sites like that, where anybody can go in and write an article. It seems like AI is doing most of them now,
Oh, yeah.
and it's misinformation. I'll just call it that, misinformation.
Yeah. Anyone can write anything they want and put it out there, and someone who sees it is going to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, GMs are not doing their job if they don't ask
I
about
go
anything.
I go back to years ago where somebody wrote an article and it was rumored that the Edmonton Oilers and the Boston Bruins were close to a deal for Jake DeBrusk, and the Bruins were sending Jake DeBrusk plus a second round pick for the little short guy. A lot of people were asking if we should go after him this year.
Forward or
Forward, the midget.
Hyman?
Oh, I can't remember his name.
Someone's going to throw it out there in the comments. I'm asking you in the comments if
Anyway,
you know who he's talking about.
the thing is, and fans shouldn't have to do this. You know, and by fans, I mean the fans that are reading these articles, because you could tell that the article is pure bullshit simply because the cap didn't work out. There's no way the deal could have been made because the cap wouldn't work out. And unfortunately, this is the type of stuff that's getting put out there right now. And unfortunately, a lot of people fall for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, like you said, they don't know all the details or how the cap works. Some people don't care to learn it either, and those are the ones that you have to pay attention to. I actually on Puck Off on that website, I just put out a piece about what Kevin Adams can do for the Buffalo Sabres. Now, I didn't get into specifics on specific deals, just types of players that they should look to bring in. But between them and some of the other teams that I mentioned, they don't have to worry about the cap. They have so much cap space, it doesn't matter. It's a matter of getting the right players, having to, for them, potentially waive clauses and stuff like that. Those are other issues. Frederick, though, has no trade protection. You can send him anywhere. I do think Bear Force is correct here, where he says I think he's actually being talked about with a lot of other teams. I could see a deal happening. Like you said, GMs are not doing their job if they don't ask. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Mike says, I have to imagine that the Rangers, Bruins, and Preds have talked a ton to each other and a lot of other teams as well. Michael adds in, the only player I want from the Rangers is Ryan Lindgren, who ironically we sent there.
Mm-hmm.
Thompson has a chip on his shoulder. Which Thompson is Court referring to here? I'm not sure. Matrix says on Wallstrom, since he was born and bred Mainer, he's watched him a lot in his high school and college career. We're all going to be surprised at how damn good the kid really is. He's going to thrive with the Bees. We will see. Let's see. Regarding Kastelik, I like him on the third. Would keep him on the bottom six until Max Jones works his way back up there, which Court doesn't think is going to happen. Max Jones just may not make his way back up. I think you have other players who are playing better than him.
Maybe next year.
Maybe, yeah. But at the same time, he came in, he started hurt, he started behind the eight ball, and maybe it just takes him a little more time. I mean, he's still relatively young. So, let's see. Kevin asks, what would you even get for Freddie, or would you be looking to add him to a package?
It depends on the team. Like, it's
100%.
Like, Frederick could help a contender. He really could. When Costello got moved to that line with Coyle and Frederick, I liked Frederick because Costello made Frederick move his feet and dragged him along and made him play to Costello's level. Obviously, the games against Winnipeg and Seattle were terrible for just about everybody, so it's hard to say. And then last night, it was the Pasternak line that really shined and got the bulk of the looks. So, and the credit. So there wasn't that much attention paid to Coyle's line. So it's hard to say. Frederick is so night and day.
Like you said, it depends on what team is looking at him.
Yeah.
And I think a contender's more likely to try to trade for him because he is an unrestricted free agent when the season is over.
How do you think Frederick would look in Florida?
Which Florida team? The Panthers?
Yeah, there's only one Florida team.
Well,
the other one's Tampa. The other one is Tampa.
Well, I was just making sure. Come on. I think he would fit well in with that group. I don't know if that's somewhere that you'd want to send him. Then again, I also sit here and go, what would you look to get back? What would they want to send you to make it worth you sending Trent Frederick to the Panthers?
The right contender will send a first-round pick back for Trent Frederick.
Oh, that's fair. They don't have their 2025 first rounder, though.
No.
They don't have their first, second, or third rounder, so you'd be waiting until 2026 for a first rounder from Florida.
But the right contender will send a first rounder for him.
You know who that would you consider 2 seconds instead? Would that be fair for Trent Frederick?
I'm not even sure I would consider it first. I'm saying, to answer the question, the right contender would send a first-round pick back.
I agree.
That's the only point I'm making. What I would accept doesn't matter to the Boston Bruins.
Fair point. Let's see what else we got here. I'm thinking that Wallstrom might thrive at a top 6 role in Boston. Great timing for him as those roles are usually filled.
He's had 3 coaches on Long Island? since he
sounds
broke
about
into the
right.
league.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, 3
So,
coaches. He's had
I'm,
at least that many different centers. I don't know.
honestly, it's not a bad flyer. I know some people really hated the idea. I just I here's the part that bothers me. So many people were clamoring for Don Sweeney to do something. He goes out and he claims Wallstrom off waivers and does something, and then those same people turn around and bitch that he did something. He's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. So sit back, see what happens here. If it works, great. If it doesn't, Don Sweeney's not going to sit with his thumb up his ass. He's going to make another move. He's going to try something different. He wants to make the playoffs. That's the goal. I don't know what else to. You got anything there, Dom?
Nope.
So when it comes to the way they're playing, what were your thoughts on each of the games? How they played, why they succeeded in Vancouver, where they failed in Winnipeg and Seattle?
They fell behind. They got into penalty trouble they couldn't get out of. They couldn't score on the power play. And once they were behind in the third period, it's like they gave up. And they were in both games. They were in both games going to the third period, Winnipeg and Seattle. Vancouver, I already gave my thoughts. Vancouver seemed to lack energy, flu bug running through the room. So to me, that game is what it is. They executed, I will give them that, but I don't think we saw the best of Vancouver.
Yeah, I do think that when that Vince Dunn goal was confirmed in Seattle, that was the one that was looked at again for the high stick. I think that reinvigorated Seattle, and that was when Boston kind of just mailed it in. Up until that point, they were into it. They held it together, and then that was the moment. That was a turning point for them.
That trade I was talking about earlier with DeBrusque was for Kale Yamamoto.
Oh, Yamamoto. Okay. All right. Yeah. No, that he made way too much money. I don't think he was ever under a contract Boston could fit while he was still playing.
And the Bruins were the ones throwing in the second round pick.
Wow.
People fell for that.
Wow. I just yeah. I had someone during the Seattle game. I saw someone who tweeted out that the Bruins should trade David Pastrnak because he turns the puck over.
My mother turns over in her grave. I'm not trading her.
Well, I just kind of wrote back. I was like, so does like Kucherov, so does Draisaitl, McDavid. Like the best players in the league who hold on to the puck the most are going to turn it over the most. Do they all suck? Like, just look at who turns the puck over the most and tell me that they suck. It's not a corresponding statistic like that. It's asinine to think that trading Pastrnak is going to solve a problem. It's going to open up way more than you have.
No offense to the people that you respond to on Twitter, Chris, but you got to stop responding to 13-year-olds.
No, this person had a profile picture. They should have known better.
So what? I can create a profile pic that isn't me too.
Fair point. But what did you actually? Speaking of some of the events that happened in the games, what did you think about when Quinn Hughes dumped the puck in right around face height of Brad Marchand.
There was some question whether it was intentional or not. I think it was. If you look at it at every different angle, that was intentional.
That's what I thought. When there was a replay that they showed from goal level, coming at it from the goal side. I saw that replay and I went, Marchand responded the way I probably would have in that moment because that looked intentional to me.
And everybody on Hockey Night in Canada during the intermission, with the exception of Elliot Friedman, thought that it was intentional, including Kelly Rudy, who's played the game. And Court, you're going to have to help me out here. What's his name? The former Vancouver Canuck who played the game said it was intentional.
I'm just curious, what would have been the motivation behind it?
Chirping.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know Marchand excels at that, but I mean, is that enough to throw a puck up by someone's head?
I don't think he was trying to get him in the head. I think he was just trying to hit him in the chest.
And then it got a little away from him. One thing I also noticed, too, was at the end of the first period, we were talking about playing the way that they're supposed to and through Sacco's system. Did you catch what the shot differential was with about 2 or 3, 4 minutes left in the period against Vancouver?
No, I think it was something like 15-4, wasn't it?
Yeah, at one point when I jotted it down, it was 14-3. That's the system that we're talking about. Hopefully we get something breaking from you. I remember when my phone would ding during the show.
It's Court, Kevin Bieksa.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised he didn't just throw it in the chat.
Well, it's easier just to text me.
Fair. That's fair.
Yes, see, folks, I do have a phone number, and some people have it.
They also have your Twitter and your Blue Sky. And what'd you think of Marchand's penalty shot against Seattle?
That was nice. I was just hoping that I don't know why he starts so far back and skates towards the puck. Because as he was doing it, I'm thinking to myself, please don't miss the puck. Remember that one penalty shot where he just skimmed the puck and lost it?
Moved it about half an inch?
Yeah. You touched the puck.
Sorry, what is that, like a centimeter and a quarter for you? Is that how you guys would say it?
No, a centimeter and a quarter would be 13 millimeters.
Sorry. I mean, that's about how much he moved the puck, though.
Yeah.
I did like the movement that we saw on the power play against Vancouver when Marchand got his power play goal. I think it was Lindholm was down in the bumper, if I remember correctly.
Marchand started at the point.
Yes.
Fed it down, and I don't know how he went from the blue line to the net untouched or unguarded and left that wide open for that goal. I just don't understand it.
I don't know, but I liked the quick puck movement that we saw from everyone else to make the play happen.
Yeah.
That's what I liked. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, my God, the power play's fixed. It's what you can expect when the power play is working. So we know they can do it. Now it's a matter of finding it and doing it consistently. McLaughlin got his first goal.
Yeah. But right there's a good segue to a question. Sorry, folks. For some reason, Chris doesn't have these prep to put up, so I'm just going to read it. Um, I'm wondering if the Bruins have the right assistant coaches in place. With Kelly and Leach, it seems to not work for them. Offensive, defensive, and now goaltending starting to show some concerns. Should they go outside the organization and look for another assistant? Maybe it comes down to player personnel as well. Just find the whole organization all out of sync this year from top down that has bled onto the ice. That's from Mike. Yes, I think they need another assistant coach. Who? I don't know. Um, but if I were them, I would be looking outside the organization for one
Yeah,
that can put their fingers on the power play and the PK. Uh, I know Mike mentioned goaltending as a concern. I'm not concerned with goaltending. They have one of the best, if not the best, goaltending coach in hockey.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would not be worried about Bob Asenza and what he's helping the goaltenders produce. Um, I know we've talked about the coaching before. When we had Evan Marinovsky on, we were talking to him about what coaches could be out there. Um, I mean, you'd have to. I mean, would you look at a guy who's like a former NHL head coach who, I don't know, like a Jay Woodcroft or someone like that, to bring in and just add to the staff?
Um,
Not
I
Joe
would be
Quenneville.
I would be looking for somebody who can put their fingers on the PP and the PK. That's my concern. I don't need anybody to coach the forwards. They have a guy for that. I don't need anybody to coach the defensemen. They have a guy for that. I need a special teams coach.
Do we know of any who are available? That's the real question.
Well, it depends on what route they want to take, Chris. Do they want a guy with NHL experience or not?
True. True. I feel like given well, I mean, yeah, you could go either direction really because you have veteran coaches on the staff.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, it's not like they need to learn how to do the job. Sacco's been a head coach in this league before, so he knows what it takes. It's just a matter of, is he the right guy? And his system works. I think this team would play better. It's just a matter of taking that one thing off of his plate, the specialty teams, and finding someone who can do it. Um, and then obviously trying to figure out who. But I'm glad they don't. They got to pull out ye old Rolodex of coaches and see who would want to do the job.
I'm I'm sure they've looked. I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Yeah. Well, I know a couple weeks ago, speaking of looking around, I know we were talking about when everybody was not sure what was going on. You were talking about they were looking at potentially bringing in a psychologist. Um, do we know if that was ever done? Do we know like if they're still exploring that because for some reason, like Pasta doesn't still look like himself. I know he had the major night on Saturday against Vancouver, but he still looks a little off, and I don't know if it is potentially injury related or if it is mental.
I haven't heard whether they did, but I'm guessing that they did. Uh, most teams keep somebody close at hand for those things anyway, so it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. Most teams have a sports psychologist on call at all times.
Right. No, I know it's a resource that they tend to offer or have available. So, um, It's just a matter of frequency of using it and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot more. I mean, those first two games were not great at all, but I also don't think they were indicative of who this team really is. So, the advantage is uh, the rest of the conference, the rest of the division, the rest of the conference is pretty weak overall too. I know I was watching another show and they posed the question because we're 3 points out of first place, right behind Florida and Toronto, who are tied. Does the division suck? What do you think?
Obviously, like people got to remember that the NHL goes in a cycle. For a couple of years it'll be the Western Conference. Then for a couple of years it'll be the Eastern Conference. It's just the way the game works. Everything's in cycles. But we haven't even reached the Christmas break yet. Am I panicking? No, I never panic. I just take it as it comes. I hear people tell me all the time, well, yeah, but Tampa's got like 5 games in hand on us. Well, no, Tampa has no games in hand on me. They may have 5 games in hand on the Bruins. But one thing about games in hand, you have to win them.
Right.
And the last time I looked, the majority of Tampa's games are against teams within their own division who they haven't beaten yet. They have yet to win a game within the division. Last time I looked. I didn't look before the weekend. So I think they were
check right now.
Last time I looked, they were 0-3-2 against teams in the division, which means the bulk of the remaining games are against teams within the division.
Yeah, and they're 16-10-2 right now overall. We're 16-13-3. I don't know. I'm trying to find in the division standings here, but
games in hand mean nothing in hockey anymore.
Like you said, you got to win them.
You got to win them. And the way the NHL is this year, you could lose 5 in a row just as easily as winning 5 in a row.
Yeah. And I don't think the right answer is, the division sucks. I think if you look at around the league, the Bruins are 6th in the entire conference.
Sorry, they're 0-3-0 within the division.
0-3-0. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. Every other team in the division has played, let's see, there's 6, 7, 8, 7, 9, 6, 10. So Tampa's only played 3 games within the division. Everybody else has 6 or more. And Tampa's yet to win a game within the division. So all their games in hand are against teams in the division that they haven't beaten yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to find their third. Okay. Here's the real kicker. So back in October, they lost back-to-back games at Ottawa, at Toronto. Those were a 5-4 loss and a 5-2 loss. And then they lost 5-3 again in November at home to Toronto. So their average goals given up within the division is 5 per game.
Mm-hmm. And, Boston can take care of business themselves. They've got 3 games against Tampa.
Yep. If you win 2 of those 3, then you, regardless of games in hand, like you said, you've got to win. And, I'm sure if you look at their schedule, they've got some back-to-backs. I'm looking at a road trip real quick in March. 3 games in 3 nights. 3 games in on the 20th, 22nd, 23rd. So 4 days at Dallas, at Utah, at Vegas.
Yeah,
That's going to be a tough stretch.
games in hand don't mean nothing until you win them.
Yep, and then they catch Boston middle of March at Boston at the end of a 3-game road trip too. They've got some tough stretches coming up. Wow. Oh, well, that schedule sucks.
Anyway, enough about Tampa.
Hey, I know. I'm just looking at it though, and I'm looking at away game, back-to-backs, 4 in a row, couple 3-game road trips, like just all with travel too. Their schedule is tough. I wouldn't be worried about games in hand with Tampa right now. They got to win them. That's going to be the part that they need to worry about. I just think you are seeing some development. It's not showing in the standings, but Ottawa's better, Detroit's better, Buffalo's better, Montreal fights better. Like they're performing better. They're just not creeping up the standings because Toronto's still good, Florida's still good. As much as people want to say they suck, Boston is still good. Like it is what it is. So I think if they continue to get through, this team still can make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They may squeak in as a wild card, but you know what? That's fine. I would rather them get in as a wild card. Although, if they get in as a wild card, they could face Toronto in the first round. Wouldn't that be funny?
It's a long ways away from playoffs. We haven't even reached Christmas yet.
I know. Do you think they'll make a move before the Christmas roster freeze as far as a trade?
Chris with his trades again. No.
I don't think so either.
We went through this last week. No. They don't have cap space to make a trade right now. They got $120,000 after the Wallstrom claim.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
I know you love NHL 24 and you love making trades on your Xbox, Chris, but
I'm with you. I don't think a trade gets made. I just wanted to see if that was your opinion.
Well, yes, it's been my opinion since day one of the season.
Do you see someone like Mark McLaughlin getting put back down in Providence before the return to Boston because of the claim of Wallstrom, even if it's a paper transaction or whatever?
No, because they're not going to fly him back.
As long as they have the cap room, they're at 23 right now on the roster?
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing. Doesn't make sense to do anything until they get back to Boston.
Right. They're not going to. Jeremy Jacobs is not going to rent a private jet or business class tickets on a direct flight. I don't even think there is direct flights from Calgary to Boston.
As it is, he's got to get Wallstrom to Calgary.
Right. So they're not sending somebody and if they say they can't send them down on a paper transaction if they're on the road, they actually have to physically send them down.
Okay.
Otherwise, with 2 days off, we would have seen guys sent down to bank cap space.
Yeah, it would have been done already. All right then.
I don't think they did that today. We'll see.
No, I haven't seen anything. I know you usually get the updates by like 5:03, but usually by 7:30, I've seen them myself. So,
yeah, because rosters have to be into the NHL by 5 p.m. So I got nothing.
We've got Calgary, and then where do we go after Calgary? Edmonton. Thank you. Calgary, Edmonton, and then we're back home against Buffalo on Saturday.
If you ask me, like you asked me last week, I still think the Edmonton game is a scheduled loss.
Okay. That's fine. Actually, I was going to ask you, who do you put in goal against Calgary?
Beats me. Don't know.
Do you give a straight up rotation consideration for
No.
now?
No. Nope.
I know some people are clamoring for it, so that's why I ask.
I was up for giving Corpusalo a run a few weeks ago while Swayman worked his way back, but not now. No.
I
I
think
mean,
they're both playing at
I
around the same level, honestly.
Corpy should get the start to get a chance to rebound after the Seattle game, but whether Senza and Sacco feel the same way, I don't know. All I know is they make up their goaltending rotation in advance, and they almost always stick to it.
Yeah.
They
I
know
just
who's they know who's starting. Um, they've known who would be starting these games at the beginning of the month.
Yeah, I also don't think Sacco's afraid to pivot based on performance. But again, I think they are both playing roughly the same level. I mean, Corpusalo got the lamp lit behind him a few times when he played against Seattle, but they weren't entirely on him. You
I don't
know,
think Sacco makes the call. I don't think Montgomery made the call.
you think it's
I
all Asenza.
I think it's all Bob Senza. And
Okay.
if Court's still there, he can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Butch made the calls either. I think it was Bob Senza made the call as to the goalie rotations. No,
Which it's
obviously,
hard to argue. I mean, overall, the results that he's produced have been fantastic, so I'm not complaining about it.
obviously the head coaches have a say in it, but they're not goalie experts.
Right.
Joe
Well,
Sacco doesn't know what to look for in a goalie. Jim Montgomery doesn't know what to look for in a goalie. Bruce Cassidy doesn't know what to look for in a goalie. He relies on they rely on Bob Essenza to look after the goaltending.
right. And like I said, we were talking about Thatcher Demko gave up 5 on Saturday. Wasn't all on him. The 5 that Corpusalo gave up weren't all on him. You know, there was a couple that I'm sure you can go back and look at the tape against whether it was Swayman or Corpusalo in those games on Tuesday and Thursday. There's a couple that you're going to want back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. There are always going to be goals that you can find that any goaltender gives up that you look at and go, they want that one back. That one shouldn't have gone in. But you know what? There no goaltender has a career save percentage of 1,000 who started more than 5 games.
No,
Like maybe it's 5, maybe it's 7, whatever. You know what I mean? Like
I would
3
say
games
it's
probably.
two.
Yeah. You know, back-to-back shutouts and then you retire. Like what? That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
You
But
get back-to-back shutouts in your first 2 games, they're going right back to you for game 3.
yeah,
It just doesn't happen that way.
oh well,
Anyway,
it is what it is.
we got about 20 minutes left, Dom. What do you have on the docket that we might be forgetting about here? I had the games here, and I mean, really kind of went over some of the other thoughts and things that I've seen. So
Um, like I said, I'm curious to see what the lineup is going to be like. Um, you know,
yeah,
Osterley's been solid for Boston filling in, but
yep,
he had a couple of questionable plays last night. At least the way I watched the game, I would question them. Um, does Waterspoon deserve to go back in based on that? I don't know. Um, I'll tell you, Nikita Zadorov looked like a man on a mission at times last night. Like that one end-to-end rush he made
Yeah.
in what was it? I think it was the third period where right at the end the puck. I think the puck flew off his blade. He didn't get the shot off, but he looked like a guy on a mission last night.
Yeah.
Um,
I think someone said
Castelik
something
had
to him
that.
out the door.
Yeah, Castelik had that one timer that uh, almost right from the middle of the slot uh, on a feed from Coyle that um, just Demko just closed his arm on, caught it between the arm and his body. Would have loved to have seen Castelik get that.
Hey,
Um,
speaking of getting that one, Mark McLaughlin got his first.
yeah. Um, anyway, back to Castelik. I think he really deserved that one because he's been playing really well. So I hope he
He has.
pots one soon. Um, Johnny Beecher, I don't know, man. If I could send him down to Providence right now, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just he's and this is what the Bruins might be thinking. He just hasn't been the same without Castelik on that line.
Does he require waivers yet?
Yes. Once he hit 70 career games, he required waivers, and that was 2 weeks ago, I believe.
That sounds right. Okay. Um, actually, real quick before we move on from players who are having a good game, you know who stood out to me as having a real good game against Vancouver also was Andrew Peak.
Um, you can say that a lot about Peak this year. Most nights he's unnoticeable, which means for Peak to be unnoticeable, he's doing his job. Um, and a lot of people fail to understand that. Peak doesn't have to stand out. If he does, he's not playing his game and he's not doing his job. So I got no problem with Peak.
With this defense, you have Parker Wotherspoon, who's up at the end of the season, and then Mason Lohrei, who needs a new deal. Otherwise, everyone is signed at least through the end of next season, including Osterley. Um, we know we've seen it before. You can never have enough D. However, is that a strength, a position of strength that you can pull from to try to make a deal to help fix the offensive lineup?
I don't think so because you still don't have the depth in Providence on D. I think with the cap's going up 5% no matter what. So it'd be 92,500,000. But there might be an additional 4 million there.
Yeah.
Okay. Which means the Bruins will have $28 million in cap space.
Wow. That seems like so much for this team.
That's a lot for this team. Even if it only goes up 5%, they've got 24 million in cap space. Their goaltending is signed. Their defense is signed, with the exception of Lohrei. What's Lohrei going to get?
That's
2 million
real.
tops on a
Yeah.
1 year deal.
Would you just give him a
So,
qualifying offer and call it a day?
so let me finish, Chris. So even if at 2 million bucks, they got $22 million, a lot of money to fix your forward group. Um, as for your question, why would first of all he's going to get his qualifying offer, otherwise they lose his rights. Okay, the question is, would he sign it? And the answer is, why would he? He's already proven he's more than an $800,000 player. So why would he sign it?
Okay. So what would you do? What would you do for term for him?
I'd give him a 1 year deal, a 1 year bridge deal.
He only had a 2-year ELC, right?
Right.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah, you can get him on a 1-year bridge deal. He would still become an RFA again in 26-27, right?
Yeah.
At that point, you also have Peak coming off the books. Depth in Providence will be a little more developed. I mean, the other thing when it comes to your defense is McAvoy, Lindholm, and Zadorov all have complete no movement clauses this year, with McAvoy and Lindholm carrying them through at least 26-27. I mean,
their defense is set.
I wouldn't look to move on from the defense. I think players in the offensive unit have a little bit more value than people are giving them credit for.
Their defense is set, and they've got more than enough money. Now, I haven't looked to see what the free agents market is like, and I really don't care to in December of 2024.
Right.
I got more important things to do with my time. Money's there. They're not going to be desperate to be moving out salary to make a deal.
Right. And there's going to be some big names that hit the market, at least at one. And I'm not even including Brad Marchand in that. So they'll be able to do something. It's just a matter of, getting through this year and figuring out what needs to be there for next year. But like you said, it's December. Let's worry about the roster at hand. And that's where, people ask the question, retool versus rebuild, which this team's not going to go into a full rebuild. People need to stop thinking in terms of rebuild. That means you are trading everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the Jacobs would ever let that happen.
Well, I don't know
Right.
that Charlie McAvoy would let it happen. I don't know that David Pastrnak would let it happen. Because they control it with their no movement clauses. I don't know if Brad Marchand would be willing to get traded. They're the ones in control, not the team.
Right.
All they have to do is say, no, we're not waiving, and then your rebuild is over.
Right. You're building around Pastrnak, Lindholm, Marchand, Coyle, Zaka. Those guys are all still here. Everybody except Peak, Lorei, Wotherspoon, and Osterley are still here. Hell, no, because his doesn't kick in. I mean, Swayman would be gone, and Korpisalo could be gone, but Korpisalo even has some say in that. So it's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so. I don't even know why we're talking about it. It's like people mention rebuild to me, and it's like, yeah, not happening.
No, it's not. It's just a matter of retooling. I know that the latest update on Hampus Lindholm is still listed as week to week. How worried are you about him? He took that right off the kneecap. I don't know how severe the damage was, but I'm guessing at this point there had to have been a break in the knee.
The thing is, Chris, we don't know, and we'll never know, so I don't worry about it.
I
don't know. Maybe it's the way I was raised or the way my life has gone, but I don't worry about things I can't control. Hampus Lindholm doesn't play another game this season. I've got no skin in it. Doesn't matter to me. So I'm not worried about it. But the fact that we don't have the information and the Bruins never give you the information as to what the injury is, why are we wasting my time worrying about it? Let's fix the team that needs fixing right now without Hampus Lindholm.
Well, if you're not getting him back, do you need to replace him for this year?
Well, they have replaced him. They've got 7 defensemen.
Do you need to replace him with someone of equal level of talent?
No, you got to fix the team now. The structure, the game, the way they play, that's what needs fixing. The consistency.
Okay. I mean, we've been saying that for a while, that the consistency is the problem. So
Right.
I'm with you there.
You could bring Bobby Orr in his prime on this defense, and unless the system works, it's the same thing. You win a game, you lose 2. You win 2, you lose 3. It'll be the same thing. Doesn't matter who's on the blue line.
Doesn't matter if they pick up Wallstrom or not.
Right. It doesn't, because if they can't get their shit together and play like they played against Vancouver and revert back to playing like they played against Seattle and the way they played against Winnipeg, it doesn't matter who's on the team. Because it wasn't the players that killed them, it was the lack of execution that killed them. So whether it's Hampus Lindholm or Parker Waterspoon or Joe Nosterly, it doesn't matter. Because we saw the same breakdowns with Hampus Lindholm in the lineup.
Yeah. When your system breaks down, when your foundation breaks down, everything else around it falls. So I'm with you on that. We got a show to do today. These are some of the questions that are out there. So
I know, but it always goes back to trades. And you know how much I hate talking about hypotheticals, and trades are hypotheticals.
Until they happen.
Or until the Bruins say, hey, we're having a conversation with Anaheim about Trevor Zegras.
Dear God, I hope they don't.
You get the point I'm making.
Yes, I know.
I know. It's like a waste. If there's nothing else to talk about other than hypothetical trades, let's just end the show early.
But well, I was going to say we got 10 minutes left, but I'm out. I got nothing else. I was going to see if you had anything else here.
No, and I'm just waiting to see what happens in Calgary. I think they should win that, and they would lose the one in Edmonton. And 2 out of 5 on this road trip probably should have been 3 out of 5.
Yep, I would agree with that. It's disappointing, but as we mentioned, or as we talked about, they're still third place in the division. So until that changes, they're in. And if they play against Florida the way they played against Vancouver, they have a chance in a 7-game series. They just have to play that way more than they don't play that way. They can hang with anyone when they're playing the system the right way.
Right. And that's not a personnel issue. In a way it is, because they're not executing, but it's not because Jordan Osterley is in over Hampus Lindholm.
Right. And I know a lot of people are still clamoring for Matthew Poitras to come back up, which we'll talk a lot more about tomorrow on the Prospect Show.
Well, it depends. If you have the videos uploaded for tomorrow and ready, then I'll have lots to say about it.
So I got to get them in a different format from you, because the way that they've been sent, not all of them have downloaded. Some of them have. So I got a couple of them. but I can pull them up and have them ready to go either way. So we'll be able to play them. So I know we had the Quatra's on what, a 6-game goal streak now?
But everybody just looks at the stats. Like
I know. That's what we're going to talk about tomorrow.
It's like the 5th goal he scored. Okay, I'll give him credit. I'll go into detail on it tomorrow. But that shot never beats an NHL goaltender. That shot he scored the goal on does not beat an NHL goaltender.
Getting goals like that down in the American Hockey League, do you think that helps him in his development, or do you think it's productive for him to get a goal like that down there?
Yeah, because it's more than just the goal. It's what he did that led up to the goal. And I will break it down tomorrow because it shows how smart, how high his hockey IQ is. What he did prior to the goal was more important than the goal itself, because that shot does not beat an NHL goaltender. But the play he made that led up to that is what leads to opportunities going the other way or going their way.
There was another video, and I'm looking forward to having that chat tomorrow. We'll be able to play the videos. We'll have them up. You guys will see them as we go over them. So check us out here on YouTube, on Twitch, on X, Twitter, whatever. As we go live, check it out so you can watch us along. But Dom, there was another video that you sent me that you wanted to potentially end the show with tonight.
I don't remember.
Did you still want me to play that one? That one starred Marchand and Swayman.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, let's end it on that.
Do you have any other thoughts? Any other thoughts as we approach the 8:00 hour here?
No, I want to see I hope Wahlstrom gets into the lineup. I hope he's with Lindholm and Marchand and they move Brazo down, because I think that experiment has run its course. So we'll see. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. Me too. I'm looking forward to seeing how he fits in the lineup, where he fits in the lineup, what he can bring. I even just getting a little of extra energy, excitement in the locker room, change up the vibes a little bit. I don't think that'll hurt this team at all. So I'm looking forward to that. And we got the prospect show tomorrow. I want to thank everybody who's been tuning in. This has been another episode of What's Bruin, presented by Ice Shaker. Check out iceshaker.com so you can get your own. They actually customize them now. So if you don't like any of the logos that they use for the NHL, NFL, NBA, MLB, NCAA, any of that stuff, you can actually get your own customized as well. So at some point, we'll try and get a couple What's Bruins ones out there, maybe for some giveaways or something. But again, check them out, iceshaker.com. They were on ABC's Shark Tank. They've already sold over 1 million bottles. So with that, we will let this commercial take you out. But with that, my last thought is go Bees.
Go Bees.